Hello, everyone, and welcome to Table for One, Please. My name is Tommy Hensel, and I am your host today. I've been gone for a little while. I'm finally back. In full disclosure, I had to have a little bit of surgery. Well, not a little bit of surgery. It was pretty major surgery. So it's been about 6 weeks of recovery. So I'm finally back, ready to do some cooking demos again. And I'm going to a party in a couple of days, a Memorial Day party. And some friends of mine putting this party together suggested that as a potluck, everyone should make some kind of recipe that memorializes someone in their life, someone in their family. So I thought, what better way to do that than to dig back into some old family recipes? Now, here's a little backstory. My grandmother was born in 1898, and she was the middle child of 15 children. So there were 14 girls and one boy in that family. I can't even imagine what that was like. But there were two mothers. So my great grandfather was married, had I think 6 children, and then his wife passed away. He remarried later, and his second wife was my great grandmother. And there were 9 children in that family. And my grandmother was the middle of all those 15 children. So of course you can imagine that by the time I came along, I was born rather late. My mother was 40 when I was born, and my grandmother was already 66 or 67 years old at the time. I was surrounded growing up by all of these great aunts, these women who were born in the 1890s and early 1900s who were all amazing cooks. And someone in my family decided in the early 1970s that since some of these ladies had already passed away, and many of them were getting older, that it was time to try to bring together some of the sort of iconic family recipes. So they created the first of 4 different versions of what was called the Bruton Family Cookbook. So you can see it here. This is my mother's copy of it that's from the early 1970s. You can see that it's seen a lot of use. The cover is falling off. You can see Bruton Circle Family Cookbook. And the page with the recipe that I'm going to be doing, as you can see, has seen quite a lot of use over the years. This cookbook has been used because some of these recipes are just amazing, and they are iconic family recipes. I make, not frequently, but I tend to make my great aunt Margaret's famous cream pound cake. And if I really want a sugar bomb, I'll ice it with my great aunt Ruth's famous caramel icing, which is kind of like a praline surrounding the cake. And then there are a number of other famous recipes in there from my family, but the one that I'm going to be making today and taking to this Memorial Day party are my grandmother Mary Bollin's famous party sandwiches. So what you see here are all of the basic ingredients for these party sandwiches. Essentially, my grandmother took the concept of a cream cheese and olive sandwich and upgraded that concept. So what we have is cream cheese. Now, my grandmother used regular cream cheese and let it soften considerably before mixing everything into it. I am a huge fan of whipped cream cheese because you can let it soften a little bit, but it makes stirring other things into it super easy. So cream cheese, mayonnaise. In the recipe, she says, mayonnaise, I use a lot. A typical Southern thing. So there will be a lot of mayonnaise, and Duke's is my favorite Southern mayonnaise brand. And of course, cream cheese and olive sandwich will have olives. My grandmother used the small can of chopped black olives. And normally when I make this for myself, I actually use the green olives, but I'm going to use the black olives today to keep it more in the zone of her original recipe. To that, we add toasted pecans, bacon. I've pre-cooked the bacon, but I'm going to actually throw it back on and let it crisp up a little bit more. Lemon juice, fresh parsley. I only need a cup of fresh parsley, so I'll be making a lot of parsley pesto with the remainder of this parsley. Salt and pepper. And my grandmother's recipe calls for a small grated onion. Now, I am allergic to raw onions, but I am going to use about a teaspoon of onion powder in this. And that's it. So you mix it all together and spread it on. She used the little tiny, you probably know those little tiny pieces of bread that are yay big party sandwiches. I couldn't find those yesterday when I was shopping, but I do have a loaf of regular bread, and I make this very often. I'll use a loaf of regular bread, cut the crusts off, and then cut each piece into 4 triangular pieces. And that way you get about the same amount of sandwiches that you would from all those little tiny pieces of bread. So I'm going to go off and start doing some prep, and I'll come back and show you a little bit of the prep and the arrangement of stuff into the bowl. I tend to like to use this Pampered Chef battered bowl for this type of thing because I like to let this mixture sit overnight so that the flavors marry together before I construct the sandwiches. So I'm going to make this today and let it sit overnight and then construct the sandwiches and go off to the party tomorrow. So I'm going to go away for a little while and do a little prep, and I will be back. Hello everyone, I am back. I have been slicing, chopping, squeezing, toasting, reheating, and generally making a big mess in my kitchen, but I've kind of cleaned up a little bit now, and now I'm just going to put it all together for you. I'm going to give you the recipe and I will post it in below this video, but this is super simple. First I have the 8 ounces of cream cheese. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm using whipped cream cheese because I think it's easier to mix things in. If you use regular cream cheese, you have to let it soften for a really long time so that it's easy to mix the other ingredients. So we're going to start with the 8 ounces of cream cheese. To that I'm going to add the 4.5 ounce can of chopped black olives, or chop your own olives. You can use black or green, but for this recipe, trying to keep it traditional from my grandmother, I'm going to throw in those olives. Oh, and by the way, what I've done is, I've learned from all my chef friends over the years, is the way to make cooking easy is mise en place. Is prepare everything in advance, chop it, measure it, and all you have to do is throw it all together. And I love these little Pampered Chef bowls for prepping things. These are 1 cup bowls. This is a 2 cup bowl, and there's a 3 cup version as well. So anyway, that's 4.5 ounces of the black olives. Now, it calls for 6 to 7 slices of chopped up bacon. I started out with 8 slices, but I ate 2 of them because bacon. So this is 6 slices of bacon finely chopped. I'm going to throw that in, followed by a cup of toasted pecans. Now, definitely toast them. If you use regular pecans in this, it's going to be fine, but honestly, it's a much better flavor, and it's a completely different flavor profile with the toasted pecans. And when you chop them up, some of them get really fine and powdery, so you sort of get that through the mixture. Throw that in. Then I'm going to follow that up with a cup of minced fresh parsley. This is a 2 cup bowl, but that's a cup in there. Finely minced parsley. I'm going to start giving this just a little bit of stir before I add anything else into it, just to start the process of things moving around. Okay, so what's my next ingredient? Oh, normally my grandmother would have used a grated small onion, and you need to grate it, don't chop it up because you don't want chunks of onion. But when you do use a raw onion and you grate it, you get that onion juice, and the onion sort of incorporates through the mixture. As I said, I'm allergic to raw onions, so I'm going to use a teaspoon of onion powder. My suggestion, actually, rather than an onion, would be to use a shallot, because I think a shallot is a little bit milder than a traditional onion, and it might give you a better flavor. So that's my onion powder. I'm then going to use 2 teaspoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. This is something that you might want to flavor correct later. I'm just going to put 2 in for right now. And then I'm going to come back later and taste it. So that's all the ingredients but 1, or actually 3. I'm going to put a little bit of salt. Since the bacon is kind of salty, I'm not going to put much salt in. I do like a lot of nice freshly ground pepper. So I am grating some pepper in there. Again, salt and pepper and the onion powder and the lemon juice are things that you can use later to flavor correct if you don't like the flavor. Now, my grandmother says mayonnaise, I use a lot of it. Okay, so I'm using Duke's, which is my favorite mayonnaise, and I'm just going to throw in a couple of glops. I guess glop is a technical term, right? A couple of glops of mayonnaise. When you use regular cream cheese, you might need to use a little extra mayonnaise in order to slacken the mix off so that it's more spreadable. In this case, because I've used the whipped cream cheese, everything is incorporating really, really nicely. There we go. And actually, I don't believe that I'm going to need any more mayonnaise than that. The mayonnaise is there for flavor, obviously, but it's really there for texture to help slacken the mix off so that it becomes spreadable on a sandwich. And I think that is a nice spreadable consistency. You don't want it too thin, obviously, because it'll mush out of the edges of the sandwiches when you make them. I am going to quickly taste this, although it's going to taste better tomorrow. Oh yeah, that's great. I'm going to throw in a half glop more mayonnaise, just because mayonnaise, and I think maybe just a titch more lemon juice. Titch is another technical kitchen term, right? All right, and so there you go. That is the base for my grandmother's famous party sandwiches, Mary Bollin's party sandwiches. I'm going to finish mixing this up, put the cover on it, stick it in the refrigerator overnight, bring it out, let it sit for maybe about an hour or maybe a half hour. It doesn't need that long since it's whipped cream cheese, just so that it's not too thick and heavy. And then I'm going to spread it on the bread. Now, if you use regular bread, which I actually am going to use regular white bread instead of the party sandwich bread, this is what I have found. Lay a slice down, cover it with the cream cheese mixture, put the other slice on top, and then slice off the crust. Because what you do at that point is you kind of seal the edges and then cut it into quarters. So you've got four party sandwiches out of each larger sandwich, and then you can use the crusts later to make croutons or something like that. They will have a little bit of this on them because when you cut it, you're going to get a little bit out of the croutons. So just understand, some of them you might just have to eat. Oh, darn, gosh. But in general, you can save those crusts and use them for some other purpose. If you're going to use the little tiny party sandwiches, which is the preference, then you can either just leave those whole because they're only yay big, or you can slice them in half diagonally so that it goes a little bit further. This depends on the kind of party that you're going to, if you want little finger sandwiches or slightly bigger sandwiches for people to enjoy. So that's it. Mary Bollin's party sandwiches. I will put the recipe below. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. Again, my name is Tommy Hensel, and this is Table for One, Please. Please join this YouTube channel or subscribe to this channel. Check me out on Facebook at Table for One, Please, if you're a Facebook person. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Table, and then the number 4 and the number 1, Please. So Table for One, Please, on both Instagram and Twitter. I hope to be back with you again soon with another fun recipe, and until then, I am, as always, epicuriously yours. Thanks.